Hi, everyone. My name is Beverly, and I'm a research assistant for the Asian American Transnational Research Initiative at Cal Poly Pomona. And in this video today, I wanted to go a little bit over about what Qualtrics is, how is one able to create a survey on Qualtrics, and, the different features that the program and software really offers to people who are looking to collect data on, any population that they may be looking into and so on. And, this is a tool that I've used on my research team and among other things for some of the courses I've taken at Cal Poly Pomona. And I really think it's a great tool for people to, really be able to create a survey in their own way and really be able to customize it to their own liking and what they may be trying to collect data on. So without further ado, I thought it would be nice if I actually went into Qualtrics and, did a step-by-step process on how to create a survey, the different features that, once you get in and create a survey, what you're able to do among many of the other wonderful features that Qualtrics does. So I'm going to actually share my screen with you all, and I think that'll be a great way to be able to kind of go in there and show you exactly firsthand how to go about this. And of course, on your end too, if you're looking into creating a survey on Qualtrics, this might be kind of nice to follow along as you're making your own survey too. So I'm going to share my screen right now. And perfect. Okay, cool. So now I'm logged onto Qualtrics on my own account. So depending on the type of Qualtrics account that you have or that you're looking to get into, there's a few different ways that you can kind of go about this process. So I have a Qualtrics account through my CPP, so through my Cal Poly Pomona email. So that way I don't have to pay for Qualtrics because it's something that is from my institution, so that's something I don't have to pay for. But there is Qualtrics that doesn't have to be tied down to a specific institution, but I believe that you have to pay for that. So in this case, if you belong to a university campus, you don't necessarily have to worry about this. But I just kind of wanted to mention that in case that's something that becomes an issue. So basically, once you log on to Qualtrics, and depending on if you've used it before or that if someone's tried to share a survey with you, you may have a few surveys kind of already loaded up on your account like I do, but, you may not. This may be your first time. So these are, some of the surveys that I'm, collaborating on or that I've been working on in some kind of capacity. And I did want to show and make note of this, that when you do want, let's say you make a survey, right, and you want to share it with someone, or, you want another Qualtrics user to be able to go on and collaborate with you and actually edit it along with you, is that you can go here and press collaborate, and you can go ahead and type, any email here of the person that you'd like to share it with, and then they'll go ahead and get a notification to get on it. So, once you do that, they'll have complete access to it, and, as long as they have a Qualtrics account tied down to that email. So I already made a Qualtrics here earlier, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new one to kind of show you the step-by-step process. So over here, you go ahead and press create new project. And it's pretty simple. You click on survey. And then here, you can create any kind of, title that you're looking for. Here we'll do Qualtrics test number 2. And I did want to make note of this as well, is that if you already have a survey on your account, or if someone shared a survey with you and you want to make a copy of that direct survey, you can do that right here by selecting the project, like I have here, or you can pick it from a library that you already have on Qualtrics, or you can even upload a file of a previous survey and create one from there as well. So this is really nice if, you are, if there's been a survey that you've worked on in the past or someone has shared with you that you just want to, if you want to use a majority of the same questions but only want to tweak a few, instead of having to create an entirely new survey and manually type out all the same questions, you can just directly make a copy of it and then just change a few of the questions that you need to change. So that's been really great and useful for me as a research assistant using Qualtrics. But for the purpose of the video, I'll go ahead and make a blank project to show you. After you name it, that's all good to go. You're going to go ahead and press get started. So then when you get to this screen, it already creates the first question for you so that way you can kind of see how that works. So here, what is really nice is that it's pretty self-explanatory once you get to this, is that you can go ahead and type in, any type of question that you want to do. What is your gender? And from there, actually sometimes Qualtrics will generate responses for you depending on the question, if it's like a commonly asked question. So here they already added 2 options, and of course you can add as many more options as you like. So you can do, you go over here and you can click on choices and, pick however many. And then you can go ahead and, for click to write choice 3, you can type in anything you like, we'll put non-binary, and then so on and so forth. So that's really nice if you want to create multiple choice type questions. This is, a very easy way to go about that. And that's like, Qualtrics kind of default is to create multiple choice questions, but multiple choice questions are not the only type of question that you need to have. So you can pick from, as practically endless amount of question types. So here for change question type, you can go ahead and pick anything that you may be kind of looking for. So you can do, a text entry, and they give you an example of what that may look like here. You can do a slider. So if you're looking for someone to kind of rank, what type of, percentage of something that they use or whatever, that will be a good thing too. You could do a side-by-side, and they give you an example. They pretty much give you an example of each type of question. So you can kind of play around with it and what you see fit. So for the purpose of the video, I won't go into details for each question option, but I will say that a lot of surveys tend to opt for the multiple choice because it's a pretty simple way of being able to kind of ask a question and generate a response, and then to be able to go in and actually analyze those responses. But of course, every survey has their own way and their own method, and of course you can develop a mixed approach to this. You can have different types of questions and different types of responses. So that's been the norm for the type of survey that I've worked on. So yeah, so that's all. End up with that for that part. Here, so right below choices, answers. This is a very important thing if you are looking to ask questions that you can pick multiple responses. So if you only want a single answer, so in the case of what is your gender, let's say you only want a single answer. Right now, these are circles, right? If you click multiple answer, they'll turn into boxes. So in that case, the participant, the person who's taking the survey, will be able to go in and click however many options they want. And that's really useful for, the click all of above, or, how those types of questions, right? Race and ethnicity questions, a lot of questions where you want your participants to be able to click as many options as possible that are pertaining to, themselves based off of what the question is asking. So I'll go ahead and change it back to single answer, but just remember single answer is circle, multiple answer is square. So if you ever kind of need to know that. You can do a drop-down list, select box, multi-select box, so, pretty self-explanatory. You can pick the orientation in which the, option choice is given to the participant, so that's kind of nice as well. You can do force response. Something I did want to mention is you have to be a little bit careful about this when you make this as an option. So what force response is that you make it so that way the participant has to absolutely answer that question before moving on to the next one. So this is important if you want to make sure that people take all of the questions and they don't leave any unanswered, but you have to make sure that you give participants an option to click something that pertains to themselves. So kind of an example of what this would be is that, if you ask someone to say something like, have you, will you be in the position to buy a car in the next 5 years? So let's say someone already owns a car and they don't really want to think about being in the position to buying a car. You may want to, so let's say you have yes, no, and then you change the choices down to 2. Let's make it vertical. So let's say you want to have an option for someone who already owns a car and you don't have that here. And some of your participants might get confused and they're like, oh, well, I might be in the position, but I already own a car and I don't really want to buy one. So you want to give them another option that says NA, or, something along the lines of that, whatever you see fit for that third option for that type of question. So let's say you didn't have that option, the participants get confused and they feel like none of the answer choices are really pertaining to them. But they can't move on to the next question because you did that force response. So that's just something kind of important to keep in mind. It's a problem that sometimes people may run into when they make that an option. So I just figured that was good to know. And then after that, those are probably, I would say, the most important things with creating questions on Qualtrics is being, comfortable with the question type here, the different options, the different choices, however many choices you can add or however little. And then the option to even put automatic choices, but yet again, be careful with automatic choices because they may not always be the best option for you and the type of survey you're looking to do. The different types of questions here, single answer, multiple answer, and so on, the orientation, so on. The next thing I wanted to kind of talk about is that once you're done with your first question, you can go ahead and create next ones. So here you just press this little plus button, And this top one right here will create one above, and the one below will create one below the next question. So now here we have 5 questions ready to go. And then here, let's say I kind of want to check out what my survey looks like, right? You made a few questions, you kind of want to go from there and see what does my survey look like if someone were actually be taking it. And this is a great feature to use when you're making your survey, but you're not really entirely sure what it would look like to someone who's taking it, and you want to make sure that it's accessible and that it looks good. So you can go ahead and press preview, and it'll go ahead and preview your survey to you on what it would look like to the person. So of course, for these questions, we haven't made anything for them yet, so it just says click to write the question text, but this is what it would look like for the participant. So will you be in the position to buy a car in the next 5 years? Yes. And then so on and so forth. You can go ahead and click yes. And then, we thank you for your time taking the survey. Your response has been recorded. This is a typical response you would see at the end of a survey after you've taken it. And then here, you see the Cal Poly Pomona sign because like I mentioned before, my account is tied down to my school, but it might look different for you. And I'll show you in a little bit, you can actually change what this looks like. So I'll go back. You can close out of this. So let's say you did all of this right. So now you're good to go. So then now what you do from this is that you, let's say, you have a few questions kind of done. You're good to go from here, but you want to create a new page. So what you can do is you can do add page break. And this page break right here means that after these 5 questions, the next questions that you may add are going to be on a different page. So do, let's say, a few questions here. Let's add 5 more just to kind of show. Just to kind of show you a little bit and kind of reiterate what I showed you earlier, we'll make this a different type of question. So we'll say, rank on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident you feel in your ability to buy a home in the next year. Let's say that. So rank on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident you feel in your ability to buy a home in the next year. So for a question like this, there might be a few different ways to approach it, but let's say we'll do, let's see, we can do a few ways. Let's do multiple choice, but actually no, let's do a different one. I was thinking about something else, but I realized there might be something better. We can do a slider. So we'll do 10 to 100 just to kind of fit what's going on. Or 0 to 100 better. So my ability to buy a home in the next year. So there's 3 options here. You only want one, so there you go. So basically the person can, rank the percentage that they feel would be fit to buy a home in the next year. And this is kind of cool because, they can pretty much put whatever they like. So then that way, so what you would do there is like, let's say you make a question, right? And you say, okay, this is what I want it to look like. But you want to see what it would look like to the participant. Like I mentioned earlier, you can preview it. So, let's say you want to preview just the question. You don't want to go through the entire thing and preview the survey. You can go to, sorry about that. You can do preview question. And you can see, this is kind of cool. You can do rank on a scale of 0 to 100, how confident you feel in your ability to buy a home in the next year. So the person can rank right here and it'll show them the exact percentage of what they're ranking. So we'll do 6%. I am 6% confident in my ability to buy a home in the next year. So close out of that. It looks all good to go. If it doesn't look good, you can make any of the changes that you need to make. But let's say, we have a new page break. We have a new page. So we'll preview the entire survey to see what that would look like. So we have our questions here. We move on to the next page. And you have your question here. And then the other questions that you added, of course. And like I mentioned before, these are just, questions that I added. But of course, we didn't make them into actual questions. So That is great. So we'll close preview, go back to that before. So great. Okay, so you have your questions. Let's say that's good to go. And something else that's really useful with surveys as well, sorry again, is there's a few different ways you can go about this. So let's say you want to kind of create a new section of questions, but you want to create a description for those types of questions so your participants are kind of aware on how to answer those questions. So let's add another page break. And actually, here's something important to note is that it created the page break above here, and it already generated questions based off of what we did before. So let's say you want to do demographics. I'm going to go, this next portion of the survey will ask you about particular demographics that make up your life. Something along the lines of that, let's just say as an example. So you want that to just be solely a description for the next set of questions. You don't want it to actually be a question that asks that, gives them a response or gives them the option to respond. So what you can do is you go to choices and just, X that out, and you have that here. And let's say you want to make it a little pretty, right? You want to edit it up a little bit. You go to here, you do rich content editor. And right here, you can go ahead and bold it, size it, whatever. You can do whatever you'd like. Font change, color change. You can add an image. You can do anything that you'd like to do. Here you could do upload a new graphic. And there, I won't go into details about that because from there it's pretty self-explanatory. You can upload photos from your desktop or wherever you see fit. Have that there. So let's say we're satisfied with that. You want to preview what that would look like. And it would look along the lines of this. So of course, for the purpose of this video, this doesn't look like the most aesthetically pleasing entry screen, but this is what you might imagine it would look like. And then of course, let's say the next questions pertaining would be demographic questions. So let's go from there. So that looks great. So we went a little bit over on how to create questions, the different types of questions that are available to you, different options, how to create a page break and have multiple pages on your survey so not all of your questions are on one place, and the different type of question, how to create a description for a question, and so on. And then something I would actually like to add about this is that let's say you make a question and let's say it's anything, you can still add a description for that question and still have it be an actual question that asks your participants for a response. So you can still have a description under the question. Like if you want to clarify on a specific topic, you ask your participants about, let's say a particular topic that they may not be too familiar with and you want to add a little description, you can add it right below the question. You just ask the question here, question, and then below it, type in the description there. So I won't go into more details about that, but you can kind of take that as is and play around with it if you see fit for what you're trying to do. So we've kind of gone over all of this. Something else I did really want to go over was the look and feel of a survey. So you can go here at the top that says look and feel, and it'll actually pull up your survey for you right here on what it looks like. And you can pretty much customize what your survey looks like here. So you can do, you can do style of the survey. So for this, because I am on, I'm at my university and my Qualtrics account is connected, it's automatically connected to the Cal Poly Pomona Qualtrics theme, but I can change it to whatever I'd like it to be. Let's say we want it blank. And then here it unlocks everything. So I can do layout, what I want my questions to look like. You can make it any of those options. General, you can, pretty much do anything here, change the color of things. Say I want that color, you can go ahead and do that. Change the font size. You can kind of play around here, but I did want to mention that this is the place that you would go if you want to change the look and feel of your survey. You just go to look and feel and you do that there. But that from there on, it's pretty self-explanatory. Everyone has different things that they want to do on a survey, how they want their survey to look like. So of course it will vary, but, and then after you do look and feel, you have all your questions, you change the way that your survey looks, you're happy with that. You want to make sure that the IQ survey or the IQ score of your survey is appropriate and it's accessible. So what I mean by that is that you want to make sure that your survey is accessible to the general public. So by that is that what I mean is that, sometimes surveys with different kind of question formats, it may not be the most accessible to all populations. So you want to make sure that that's accessible, because then you won't really be able to publish your survey, and you want your survey to be the most accessible that it can be, and the most easily accessible rather. So here our IQ score of our survey is great, so that's awesome. It can get as low as fair and still be good enough to publish and have people, take it. But here you can go to tools and you can go to review, and you can do check survey accessibility, and it'll check the survey and says the survey is accessible, but some options can be improved. So right here, because we haven't finished the survey and a lot of our questions are like, click to write the question text, they're just questions that I created for the video. It's not super happy with the way the survey looks, but it's still accessible as it says here. But what's really nice with this feature is that it'll let you know exactly what you need to necessarily work on to be able to move on to have your survey be accessible and be published. So, and then when you're done with that, you can recheck it and so on. We'll move on from that for now. But that's pretty much right there under tools, review, check survey accessibility. But there's a lot of other options here. You can spell check and, generate test responses if you'd like to see what that would look like. You can even share, like I mentioned before, you can collaborate from this option as well and share it with other people. And create a new version of it, export it out to people. You can export the survey onto Word. So anything like that along the lines of what you'd like to do with your survey are more than likely going to be under tools. So pretty much all right here. But then so under survey options right here, there are a few ways that you can customize your survey to your own liking. And you can also change the accessibility features and make your survey more accessible from here as well. So, you can change the survey title here. You can show question numbers. So some people tend to not like this feature because, if your survey has a lot of questions and you don't want your participants to kind of get a little, have it be a little daunting for them to see that, you're taking a 200 question survey and you're only on question number 2 is a little daunting. So some people opt to not really want to do questions, but you do want to try to let your participants know how long you have left to take on the survey. So there's kind of like a few ways you can go about that. You can add a progress bar. So here it even says for participants, try a progress bar. And you can do that. You can, kind of pretty much do anything you'd like to do. You can decide how you'd like to end your survey, whether or not you want to create your own custom end of message survey. You can upload that here. Pretty much like that. So that's pretty much here. You can play around with that when it comes time. If you'd like to make a survey, you can play around with this, see what see fit, but more of the nitty gritty type details are on this survey options option. So look and feel, survey options, and tools, I would say are probably the 3 most important things when you're on the survey option right here. After you kind of create your questions and you want to make sure everything looks good with your survey, those are the best things that you want to check out. But the next thing that I would say you really want to do is that, let's say, you made your survey, you're happy with the way things are working out, and you want to analyze your data and you want to be able to see who took your survey. So right now, I just made the survey, so there was nothing really available, nothing really there. But you can check to see here how many recorded responses and how many responses in progress have been done. So let's say you have a survey, and I'll actually show you an example of an actual survey in a little bit, but let's say, you have your recorded responses, you have 10 of them. It'll say 10 here, and then you can see how many responses are in progress. So how many people are taking the survey at the moment as, you're on the survey checking, which is really awesome. And here you can export your data. So you collected data on these 10 participants. Let's say hypothetically, you want to export your data out. There's a different few options you can do. You can do CSV file that's compatible with like R and other things like that. You can export it out as an SPSS file. That'll be good for data analysis if you use SPSS, Google Drives, Excel, anything pretty much. So we'll close that out. But then crosstabs, that's another important feature that you'd like to use. Like if you don't really, let's say you want to quickly kind of check a crosstab of something and see what something, looks like without actually having to open up SPSS or, having to open up R or anything like that to analyze your data. You can do it directly on here and see how your participants are responding right then and there. So like I mentioned before, I don't have any data because we just made the survey, but I did want to show you this feature, and I can show it to you when I open up one of an actual survey. But so let's say, you have your variables here and you can move them where you see fit. And then also another really cool option after data analysis is reports. So once you generate responses and people take your survey, you can see how people are responding to these questions on a graph form. So it'll give you, exactly what it looks like. And this is a really great tool if, you want to quickly kind of take a look as to how people are answering these questions and see if there's a trend, see what's going on here. This has always been a really good option for those types of things. And, like I mentioned before, this is a great option if you'd like to take a quick look before, going on SPSS or before going on R, or, before doing anything like that. So, and you can kind of play around there and whatever. So we did survey. I did talk a little bit about look and feel the survey, how to go about things, creating different types of questions and going about that. And then I did do data analysis. I talked a little bit about crosstabs, how you can quickly kind of analyze data and see what things are looking like after people take it. So here, for instance, it generated like one response because we took the survey kind of for fun. So here you can see what the survey looks like and how they answered and everything. So we were doing this as a mock trial just for fun. I clicked, yes, I'll be in the position to buy a car in the next 5 years. But hypothetically, depending on what your survey is, you'll be able to see all the responses here. We can check crosstabs again to see if anything's there. Also here, so it says loading your data. Sometimes if you do have a lot of data, it will take a little bit of time for it to load. So just be a little patient throughout this process and it'll be okay. But I think, because we only have one option, it won't really be the best. So, but I did also want to mention one more thing too, is that, so distributions. So let's say, you're done with your survey, you're ready for it to send out, but now you want to make sure that it gets sent out on the right platforms and you're sending out to as many people as you want or can send it to. So you can send it via email, send it via anonymous link on the web. So if you want to, make a link out and post it on social media or, post it wherever you see fit, this is a great option. You can pick direct social media, mobile, and then this is really awesome. You can create a QR code for your survey and then put it on a flyer or, put it on anything like that and just have people scan it directly on their phones. So that's really great. So I would say probably the most important things or most important tabs to kind of keep track of on Qualtrics are a survey, or the look and feel of the survey, the types of questions you want to ask, and so on. And then distribution. So once you're done with your survey, being able to distribute it out. Data and analysis, you can quickly analyze your data, see how people are responding, and quickly, take note of a few things that you'd like to take note of. And then maybe reports if you want to kind of take a quick look as to the trend. Sorry again. So cool. So now that we've done this, I did want to be able to open up the survey and show you exactly what that looks like with actual data. So we can quickly look at this. I won't open any data just for the sake of, patient privacy and everything like that, or, participant privacy, make sure that, we don't show anything that we can't necessarily show, but I did want to show a real survey. So here, there's a few options on how to go about things, but here, so as you can see here, the IQ score is fair, which is completely fine, but, the more questions that you have, the lower your score might go, just because, there's more options for things to kind of, not be as straightforward as it were if you were to have like a 5-question survey or something. But that doesn't mean it's not bad. We always check to make sure that our surveys are accessible, and this is completely accessible. But for data and analysis, you can quickly go and look exactly as to how, recent responses are of things and so on and so forth. And you can go to actions and, play around here and there and just check out what's going on. But for data and analysis, I did want to just quickly show Crosstabs with a little bit of like real-time data. So it'll kind of, it'll walk you through this sometimes, but, you can really like, play around and drag, whatever option you see fit. And you can do like recipient, you can cross-tab recipient last name with other things. It's not really the most common thing you want to do, but let's say you want to cross-tab zip code or something, right? The zip code that your participants lived in between the ages of 10 to 12, and then what generation are you? And you'll be able to exactly check out exactly what's going on, like how many people belong to this zip code that are part of this generation or so on. So you can really get a good idea as to what your data is looking like and exactly the different cross types that are happening just from this feature alone. And this is something that you can do on SPSS and other statistical programs, but that's something that you can do kind of on the grand scheme of things. But if you want to take a quick look as to what your data is looking at, then this is a great option that Qualtrics is able to offer. And, even especially too, if you don't have access to SPSS or like other statistical programs, this is very sufficient and it's very great because once you kind of create those crosstabs, you can export them out right here, like I mentioned before. So if you create a table, you can export that out, and so on and so forth. And, I found that really one of the best ways to kind of go about this section is really to play around with it and to just, get your feet wet with this, really see what it would look like with your own data and the own types of questions that you're asking for in your survey and going from there. So I did show just a very brief overview of what that would look like, but the possibilities are endless. As many questions as you have, you can, add as many things. So I spend most of my time with my family or, whatever things. So that's pretty much what that would look like. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for data analysis. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. So right now I want to update this. We won't do that for the sake of the video. But for the most part, that is primarily what I wanted to go over in this video, just kind of a brief overview of what Qualtrics looks like, the different types of questions physically that you might want to ask on your survey, the different options you can, something I didn't necessarily mention before is that you can do, a text entry type question. So if you want people to actually type in a response, you can do that as well. And that's in one of the options that I showed earlier. But we'll go back to the Qualtrics test survey that I asked. And before I end the video, I did want to mention a little bit more about that, is that, let's say here you want to do text entry, right? So you can do, what is your favorite subject in school? And then they'll be able to type directly in history, whatever. Yeah, so I showed you pretty much 3 different types of question answers, but there's a lot of different options. I think to end the video, what I might do actually, which would really be really nice, is to just take the survey for fun. So what I'll do is that, so like I mentioned before, this is not a complete survey by any means. There's a lot of options that still need to be done and added on, and I just made questions for fun for the sake of the video. But what we can do here is that we'll do distribution. So let's say we're done with our survey, we're good. We can do web. So we'll do use anonymous link. And actually here, so a really good note that I wanted to show you too is that once you're done with your survey, you have to make sure that it's ready to be like, taken and approved for people to take it outside of your team. So if your account is tied down to a specific institution, then you need someone to approve it. So you generally need like someone who's in charge of your research team, or a class that you're taking that requires us to be able to do it. But for the sake of things where you don't have an institution above you, so you would need approval. But if you're working with an institution, so if you're working with, let's say, Cal Poly Pomona, then you just have to make sure that the person who created the survey approves it. So no big deal with that. So we don't have to go through the process of having to approve that. We can just go ahead and preview it, and we'll take it for fun. So just yes, we'll do psychology, blah, blah, blah. We'll just put in answers. There's the next page. We'll do that. I showed you the little description option. So this next portion of the survey will ask you about particular demographics that make up your life. Of course, we didn't create those questions, but we'll just, click whatever. And then move on next. And then it always gives that same response. So like I mentioned before, under the look and feel and some of the other options like tools, you can go ahead and change this option and change the description that's given to participants once you're done taking the survey. Let's say you took the survey, you want to go to data analysis and, see what that looks like. And, all of your responses will pop up here. So, and then quick overview before I end the video is we do crosstabs and then, here are the different questions. So let's say as a brief overview to kind of reiterate what I mentioned earlier, you do, will you be in the position to buy a car in the next 5 years? Let's say you want to crosstab that with how many people wrote, I'm confident in my ability to buy a home in the next year. So, you'll be able to see how many people answered questions to both of those, right? You'll be able to kind of see the different distributions that are happening there. And, the different column percentages and so on. It'll run the calculation for you. And, the different options like that. But of course, there's really no data here, so it's not really necessarily running anything. So that's pretty much primarily it of what I wanted to go over for the video. I really hope that this was a very useful option for you on how to navigate Qualtrics, how to go about everything, on how to create a survey, how to analyze the data that you do, and then of course, before analysis and actually collecting data is distributing the survey and what that looks like. So, I really hope this is a useful video for you, and so thank you so much for tuning into this video.